Josh D'Amaro is the Disney Parks, Resorts, Experiences, and Beyond chairman, a guy with a lot of goodwill who was most recently president of Walt Disney World, before that president of Disneyland, and before that held some VP spots in Walt Disney World. He's a guy that has, again, a lot of goodwill, a lot of credibility that people really seem to like. We celebrated the fact that he was named chairman of Parks and Resorts here on this show because he gets it. He's a huge fan of what Disney stands for. He's a huge fan of the cast members and a major advocate for all those things. Recently, he defended Walt Disney World's theme park reopening in a New York Times interview. He shared a lot of things in this New York Times discussion, basically saying that, it's time. It's time. The magic is ready to go. We're doing everything as safe as possible. Are moving forward with accountability measures. We are going to do this the right way the first time. And so knowing that he, in this New York Times article, is trying to be, more so than anything, I think a face to a relatively faceless corporation in terms of, it's mostly just that animated mouse that you see a lot. But for theme parks, for the longest time, it was somebody who was, really missing in action. It was somebody that a lot of people didn't like to turn to necessarily to see. That was Bob Chapek. He's now the CEO of the company. But Josh is somebody that has had a lot of understanding of the parks worldwide. He has a great grasp on what cast members desire. He has a great grasp on what guests need. And, he was saying basically this is our new normal. It's our new reality. COVID is here, he says, and we have a responsibility to figure out the best approach to safely operate in this new normal. Businesses across the country are open, whether it's a local pizza shop in Orlando or an airline taking on new guests. Obviously, with Shanghai Disneyland reopening, Hong Kong Disneyland reopening, Disneyland Paris reopening, all the parks are coming back online. It's nice to know somebody is advocating for the parks, and somebody with such goodwill is standing tall and saying, this is the right thing to do right now. However, I worry that his credibility is taking a hit because in one situation, you have Walt Disney World theme parks reopening on one side of the country, and it's safe to do so. And then on the other side of the country, here in California, you have Disneyland theme parks that aren't even being allowed to reopen at this point. And there's nowhere near the same amount of surging cases as there is in Florida. Are we concerned at all, Tyler, that maybe Josh's credibility is going to take a hit on this one? It's nice to see somebody standing for the parks, that's for sure. It's been a long time, but I'm a little worried about this.
Yeah, I mean, as I say pretty much all the time when we talk about Corona stuff, I'm just very unsure about the whole situation. I'm not a health professional or anything like that, so I just have to go based what I hear and what my common sense tells me. But I personally think it is very early to do things like theme parks. I think something like Downtown Disney is a little bit different because you're not waiting in crazy lines for the most part. You're going to be sitting far away from each other if you go to a restaurant, something like that. But just a theme park situation where you're going to be sitting next to somebody, especially like on an Animal Kingdom safari for, a good, what is that ride, like 20 minutes long? I mean, I know they put the plexiglass up and stuff, but honestly, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this interview, and it just kind of sounded almost like he's just like more interested in the stockholders and things like that. Like that's honestly kind of the vibe that comes across, and so that's a little bit of a bummer. So in that regard, yeah, I think he is losing some credibility, but at the same time, he's got to be the face of the theme parks, and if the higher ups, and he's pretty high up, don't get me wrong, but if everybody wants the parks to open, then he kind of has to save face for the company, right? Like his main goal is to protect that company. So, yeah, it's a mixed feeling from me for sure.
And Garrett, he's also quoted as saying, "The world is changing around us, but we strongly believe that we can open safely and responsibly. For those that might have questions or concerns when they see how we are operating and the aggressive protocols that we have put in place, they will understand." As a former cast member yourself, would you feel comfortable going back to work right now?
With Josh at my back, I probably would, but I was in a different circumstance than other people were working in entertainment, you typically get treated a lot better than other departments because you're so small and your job is to make the magic come to life. And seeing how entertainment is going on right now, they seem like they have as much safety as anyone else. The cast members that I would be most concerned for would be the ride operators, the custodial, as well as quick serve food and beverage. They are going to be the ones that are going to be engaging most with the guests, along with guest relations. So for them, it's good to see that they have the option of not only wearing a mask, but also having a face shield as well. But for myself, I would feel confident, but I cannot speak for everyone because my situation when I worked for the company was completely different than everyone else's. And I didn't work for them during this time. So I can't speak for others, but for myself, I would feel confident in knowing that at least I'm being protected as best as I can. Again, it comes down to how will the guests react? How will the guests do follow the rules? If the guests follow the rules, then you feel good. If the guests don't follow the rules, then you probably feel a little hesitant in returning to work. Like if you see 30 people in one family, I'll be like, I'm not wearing my mask. It's too hot. Then I'd feel worse, and I'd be calling for leadership, being like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that group coming down Main Street, but until that time, we'll just have to wait and see. But I would feel good coming back. My heart goes out to Josh. He is definitely going to be taking a few punches, but hopefully it won't be a setback that won't keep him from going forward, because he's a great guy. He seems confident, and he's the face of the company that you want to have right now. If you see him smiling, I feel a little bit more confident than I would if I see some other guy named Bob.
And I think I said it here when he was named chairman of Parks and Resorts, that they're putting him in that spot because there's so much bad news to come. And I was convinced of it because nobody is more likable than this guy in the company right now. Nobody, I think, is more visible outside of those senior executive positions of Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, than Josh D'Amaro. He's somebody that Disney Parks fans all seem to know and cherish. Katrina, his statements, do they make you feel good? Are you happy he's defending the reopening of the parks? Do you think it can bite him?
When I heard about it, I kind of was like, wait a minute, hold on. Did Chapek possess his body? I was a little weary because, again, I think like Tyler was right. He's trying to like please the investors. That's pretty much what he's doing. And I personally don't think it's safe enough to open up the whole resort of Disney World compared to like everything else. I mean, everybody's saying like, Universal's open, it's safe, it's going on, it's fine. But Universal compared to Disney World is like half the size.
Sure.
Easily manageable compared to Disney World. And I just feel like it's a little too soon, especially like even with the cast members and stuff. I feel that they're put in harm's way, and Disney World can do whatever they can to make it safe, but it's up to the guests to make it even safer. And I don't know, I'm kind of like 50-50 on what Josh is trying to say, and like I'm trying to go for him, be like, okay, Josh, it could be safe. I kind of trust you a little bit, but it's that face, man. You kind of have to feel like you have to trust it because he has a kind face, I suppose. But deep down, I'm like, Chapek's in there. I know it.
He did it for the hair.
It's like some
That's
Ghostbusters
right.
stuff,
I will say though, like, make no mistake, they're putting their cast members on the front line,
Mm-hmm.
like, which is a really
They should pay him more.
They should honestly, yeah, for what the cast members go through, there should really be some type of compensation for it, in my opinion. And it just kind of seems like a couple of the things that I've heard from our friends is like that they haven't been treating them necessarily the greatest, at least on the Disneyland side. Because it's kind of like, oh, if you're not going to accept our, you can say no this time, but if you say no next time, then you're out. Like
In
stuff
terms
like
of
that.
coming off of like furlough or something
Yeah,
like that?
exactly. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it doesn't sound like they're necessarily treating them all with the most respect, and that's a huge bummer to hear. And we have to remember that we're putting human beings on the front line who may not feel comfortable with this situation, but maybe just have to do it because otherwise they're going to lose this job that they've had for who knows how many years or whatever. So
10 years,
yeah,
God knows
I
that you
mean,
worked so long for it, and then for something to happen like this, and then you have to quit because you don't feel comfortable, and then you have to try to find another job. Like it's easier said than done,
Sure.
But I just hope that what Josh is doing, he knows that the cast members are like very important people, and they need to be shown that they're important.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
not give them like double. They should just get monetary value. They should get like a little bit of like a little something something. Don't give them a happy birthday or congratulations, you did a great job, Rice Krispie treat.
And something that he was doing
Opening day.
in the middle of this shutdown, something that he was doing that I even shared with you guys was, he was going to employee homes to celebrate their milestone anniversaries with the company and doing extra special things for them, even though they weren't working at that point. He was finding them in their homes. He was finding them in locations offsite, just to make sure that they felt appreciated, just to make sure that they felt respected. Most leaders don't do that, even in Disney. So he's somebody that I think has a great deal of respect for the cast member. He's somebody that I think has a great deal of respect for guests. But at the same time, he does have to please shareholders. They all do. Mm-hmm. And if Disney gets this wrong, we've said it before, if they miscalculate on this one, if a bunch of COVID-19 cases are tracked back to Disney World
We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this starts to become a real problem. That's going to change everything, isn't it?
Definitely.
So we want them to succeed. We want them to win. We want Josh to continue defending parks in all the right ways. We just worry, I think, a little bit in terms of what could potentially happen, as it seems like every day this matter evolves. Every day this pandemic gets more and more hairy, and things keep changing. So we hope, for the sake of cast members, frontline workers, and any guest that decides to visit, that nothing bad happens to them and that all the magic is there to be found.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.